Good evening, it's 5:30 p.m. on Wednesday, February 14th, 2024. Call to order this regular meeting of the Cuyahoga Falls City School District Board of Education. Ms. Stoiko, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Coco?
Here.
Mr. Gomez?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Here.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Here.
Ms. White?
Here.
Thank you. Item B is approval of the agenda. Number 1 is a motion to approve the agenda. It's recommended the Board of Education approves the agenda of the February 14th, 2024 Board of Education meeting. Action by the Board of Education, adoption of consent agenda means that all items are adopted by one singular motion unless a member of the Board of Education, Treasurer, or Superintendent requests that any such item be removed from the consent agenda and voted upon separately.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Thank you. Item C is our opening ceremony. Number 1 is informational items. This meeting is a meeting of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It is not a public community meeting, although there are opportunities for public participation. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic found on the meeting agenda, the individual must complete a registration form found inside the attendance notebook and present it to the treasurer. Following the introduction of the topic by the board president, followed by board discussion, the individual will be recognized. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic not found on the meeting agenda, they must notify the superintendent and or board president of the topic no later than 3 business days in advance of the meeting. These individuals may share their comments during the board business portion of the agenda. In both cases, the individual will preface comments by an announcement of their name and address and limit comments to 3 minutes. All statements should be directed to the board president. No person may address or question board members individually. In addition, in public session, the board will not hear complaints about school personnel nor against any person connected with the school system. An unabridged board agenda for this meeting can be found on your electronic device at the address shown on the screen, and for your convenience, hard copies of the board agenda may be found on the table by the sign-in book. Next regularly scheduled meeting of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education is February 28th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. right here in the Cuyahoga Falls High School Library. Now for our Pledge of Allegiance, and welcome Ms. Stoiko.
Please stand for your vote. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
did that portion. Okay.
It's always somewhat enough.
Sorry. Welcome. Our vision, Cuyahoga Falls City Schools, the hub of our community, committed to a culture of caring. We innovate, we create, we personalize education for all. Our mission, every student, every day, every opportunity. The board's strategic plan goals are as follows. Excuse me. School safety. We aspire to have a welcoming environment that ensures that the physical and social well-being needs of every student and staff member are met. Academic growth. We aspire to have significant growth in personalized education for all students. We aspire to improve graduation rates so that our students are prepared for employment, enrollment, or enlistment. Engagement, inclusion, and diversity. We will ensure that every student has access to resources they need when they need it in order to be successful. Technology and systems integration. We aspire to create safe, secure, and efficient technology systems to support high-quality teaching, learning, and district operations.
Thank you. Item D are our presentations. We have 2 presentations this evening, and first up is our EL presentation. I'll invite up Mrs. Hausman to get us started.
Good evening. Thank you, President Gomez, Vice President Coco, board members, Dr. Selico, Mrs. Stoiko, colleagues, and community for having us here this evening. We appreciate this invitation. So I'm just the warm-up act, but the people behind me have done all the work, and so they've been working very hard in this presentation to kind of give you an overview and an update from last year, let you know where we are with the new curricula, where our students are, how we're serving them, as well as we're excited to introduce Mr. Bonilla, who's here with us, Ms. Lewis, and Ms. Dudone. So we're very excited for you to hear his story, and we're going to keep it succinct in about 25 minutes. So we'll see. Thank you. I'm actually going to go sit down and enjoy it, but I will answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again for having us this evening so that we can share. We will be sharing an electronic version. There are a couple of links on here that you might be interested in, so we will share that later, but you do have a print version in front of you. And Mrs. Lewis is going to start us off.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to share. So first, who is an EL student? An EL student is a child that's aged 3 to 21 who is enrolled or in the process of enrolling in an elementary or secondary school. Their native or home language is a language other than English, and they have such difficulty with reading, writing, understanding, or speaking that may impede their ability to meet state standards, participate in an English medium classroom, or participate fully in society. Okay, so who are our EL students? So technically, immigrants are people who move to a new country and intend to stay. Those who are considered immigrants include a range of people with different legal statuses. Many of our families are refugees, with the largest population being our Bhutanese, Nepalese people. We also have some Karen refugees, Syrian refugees, and Congolese refugees. I have Afghans listed there, but they're not technically refugees. They have humanitarian parole status, so similar but less benefits and less. Great. And later in the presentation, Mr. Banya will talk about his experience being a Bhutanese, Nepalese refugee. So we'll hear more about that. Okay, and then also we have many secondary migrants. So these families were resettled elsewhere in the United States and then moved into our community. So to meet the varying needs of our nearly 300 students, we have a team of 11 teachers and our new family liaison. Our current EL students speak 24 different languages other than English, and were born in 31 different countries. And I believe you also have a printout of all of the languages and countries there, as well as a list of other languages and countries represented by our whole student population. So in addition to our current EL students, we have 78 former EL students in the 2-year monitoring window. And Mrs. Dudones will talk a little bit about monitoring in the upcoming slide after sharing about EL programming in the States.
So in Ohio, we identify students in various ways. There's a language usage survey that we give, an initial assessment called OELPS, which is similar to OELPA. It's Ohio English Language Proficiency Screener, and then families must be notified. So OELPS is very similar to our OELPA. We look at whether students have skills in listening, speaking, reading, and writing. There are 3 parts to the test. There's like a practice, and then just a typical assessment, and then if the students score high enough, then there's a 3rd part to it, just to see how that goes. And then we are required to notify families what the results of that were, so they know, what next steps are and that sort of thing. Again, our annual testing that's required, so OELPS happens as a student enrolls from somewhere else, unless the previous state where they're enrolling from has the ALPA, right, the ALPA partnership, which many states don't. So typically we have to screen those students. And then there is something called reclassification, which is when students are exiting EL service and monitoring, and then I'll get into those a little bit.
What does OELP stand for?
It's Ohio English Language Proficiency Screener.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yep. I apologize, I could have put that on there.
Oh, it's on the next day.
Oh.
Sorry.
All good. Oh, I think I went too far. clicker is not my friend. Okay, there we go. So for the OELPA, again, that's annual. It's actually taking place right now. It already started at the end of January, and it goes until right before our spring break. All EL students in Ohio must take the OELPA, and again, it measures the 4 domains: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And our EL teachers and our coordinator have been very busy pulling students. Some of it can be done in a group setting, and some of it has to be done one-on-one. Like the listening and speaking, obviously, we can't have 30 kids in the same room doing it at the same time. So, as I said, we are in the midst of doing that right now. And then a student receives a numeric performance level for each domain test. So I'm not sure if you remember when we talked about the report card, that students could score from a 1 to a 5, which were equated to a scale score. So this is very similar. Level 1 is a beginning, meaning they're beginning to learn English, right? It's that lowest level. Then we have the other levels there, all the way up to level 5, which is advanced. I went too far again. I am a zealous clicker, I guess. Right, it won't go there. There we go, okay. All right, the performance levels on each of the 4 domains are then used. They're put together to determine the overall performance level. And then those are rated in terms of being proficient, progressing, or emerging. And you can see at the bottom there, if a student has any combinations of level 4 and level 5 on the 4 domain test, then they're considered to be proficient. If they have 1s and 2s on the 4 test, then they're considered to be emerging. And then if there's kind of a mishmash of levels, then they're progressing. They're not quite proficient, but above emerging. Okay. Again, monitoring. So we are required by law, or Ohio Revised Code, to monitor students for a minimum of 2 years. We can monitor them as many as 4 years. And basically what this consists of is we look at least quarterly. Our EL staff in each building will review students who were previously identified as English learners, and they look at their grades, their behavior, their attendance, their social emotional learning and well-being, and assessment results, maybe MAP or the state test, that sort of thing. These areas at the top are areas where Mr. Bonilla has been very involved, and he will share that later. But basically the point of monitoring is we want to make sure that students have not exited prematurely, and do we need to reassess them to see if they still need support from us. So this is our screening data. So you can see from 2022, 2023, we administered 73 OELPS tests, and then the varying levels are just kind of where students fell. Obviously, green is the highest. And then, again, this is what I was mentioning earlier. If a student comes from a state that does not take part in ELPA, then we have to screen them again. And then this year, so far, we've already screened 86 students. So more students than we screened last year altogether, and that was as of January 26th. Once students exit the EL program, they are connected to our data for 4 years. So this helps us learn from them, helps us learn where they are when they come in, and then helps us know in that monitoring progress. I don't know what I'm doing wrong there. Okay. And then this is our district OELPA data. This was, of course, part of our report card. So you can see kindergarten through grade 12 were tested. We did meet our state target for OELPA in 2022, 2023. Even though there's that very broad range in the yellow, our goal is to be able to grow students' English proficiency. We also have, last year, we had 5 students who take the alternate OELPA. So the alternate OELPA was new last year. It's for students who are not only English learners, but they also have a significant cognitive disability. So we have students identified with disabilities who take our alternate assessment. And this is a specific version for the OELPA to see where they are. So again, you can see there were only 5 students, and that's why not all of the students, or all the grade levels are identified, because it's only if they are also identified with a disability significant enough to qualify.
I have a quick question.
question.
Sure.
Sorry. For the district OALPS data, these are new students that are enrolling, correct?
Correct. So
Okay.
as they enroll, then they are administered this screener in the 4 domains to see where do they fall, so we know what type of support we need to start giving them right away.
So out of our 300, you said we have 300 students, correct, right now?
Yes, yep.
So 73 were new in 22 and 23, like we had a large.
So, yeah, with this, so last year's data is,
Yeah, 73 were test taken.
yeah, okay, so 31, 36, 67 qualified for EL services. Most of them were kindergarteners that were new to US, or new to school, but some of them are coming from other states and were in EL programs there, or some of them are foreign exchange students. So,
Are we seeing just that trend that there's just a growing
yes.
every year,
Mhm.
like it's jumping more and more?
And our community is especially friendly, you know, this North Akron, Cuyahoga Falls area, as you know, we have a large Nepalese population and that sort of thing, so that has helped increase that. Thank you for that support. I forgot about the kindergartners.
Can I ask a follow-up question on that?
Mhm.
And maybe I'm ahead of it, but is there anything that, you know, we have enrollment, like projections, but is there anything in that that like projects the growth for this population? Because I'm thinking like as we plan, obviously for staffing, that would be like a big, not necessarily concern, because we're not concerned about meeting the needs of these families, but something that we need to know about, like, as we think in the future, like, is there any way of mapping this and predicting this so that we can be prepared in a new year for where these where there might be more of these populations, we can make sure we have the appropriate staff in place.
Sure, so I'll answer a little and then Mrs. Lewis can fill in. So there are several places that, that Mrs. Lewis is connected with and that sort of thing. So sometimes we will hear, oh, you should anticipate a large population of, you know, X or Y in the coming years and that sort of thing because of political needs, you know, things going on elsewhere. And so she, I know in the past has shared with our superintendent, you know, this is kind of what we're seeing, this is what we've learned, and so we may want to be prepared. Obviously we can't overstaff in preparation, but we can know, like, you know, with Ms. Bogdan, well, there's a potential we could, if the anticipated number arrives, we could have a need potentially. Is there anything I left out?
Just, we kind of have an idea of the different languages that may come in. So, for example, last month, through the International Institute of Akron, a resettlement agency, they resettled 45 refugees from the Democratic Republic of Congo, Syria, Afghanistan, and I think Iraq. I think those were the main ones. So we're already seeing an increase of Afghan families in the community, so we should expect to see an increase in these language groups as well. And resettlement is at an all-time high since, I don't know, probably since the 50s? I don't know, it's been decades, but it's at an all-time high, which could obviously change in November, but
Yep.
it's hard to predict. I try to do projections, but also with our number of secondary migrants, it's pretty hard to determine.
Oh, thank you.
We try.
Okay, so this is a little bit small for you to read up there, but you do have this in front of you. So this is just some local report card data, and basically it shows in the, I guess it's the middle column, like the all students category. So if you remember from our report card presentation, there's that all students category, and then we have different, the state calls them subgroups. We don't really like that word, but that's what the state calls them. And so you can see the comparison of the all students group with our EL students. Attendance rate is slightly higher. Mobility rate for EL students, not surprisingly, slightly higher. The goal for chronic absenteeism for the district was set at 20.2%. The all students category was actually higher than our EL students. So as you kind of follow along there, if you look at our achievement, which is our PI, and that's what's shown on that chart from the report card, you can compare, again, the all students to our EL students, and you can see the goal is different for our EL students. And then we actually surpassed our goal there. And then EL growth, and keeping in mind that our growth includes students that have exited for up to 4 years, our growth for our EL students actually surpassed our all students group as well. Looking at math achievement, very similar. The goal was 59.2%. Our math achievement in the PI was 60.1, so our EL students surpassed that. And again, the math growth for all students was a negative 5.6, and then for EL students was a negative 0.5, so they surpassed that as well. The graduation rate, the NC, if you remember, means we didn't have enough students. Remember, we need 15 to count in a subgroup, so they didn't count for the graduation. And then for the ELP is the English language proficiency, and our goal was 46.6%, and we were at 62%. So that's really good news for our program and what's being done in our buildings, with the help of Mrs. Lewis and the classroom teachers, the EL support teachers and the principals. So. And then these are just a quick, basically showing you the same thing in a different way. So that 0.3% for the growth in English language arts, you can see that green arrow there. And just a reminder for you that students have met expected growth if they fell between -2 and +2. So they did meet their growth there. And then on the next page, it's the same thing for math. For some reason, the state changes the colors of the different subgroups. I don't know why, so I put another green arrow there for you. And again, a reminder, but it's just pulling out from that previous chart. So that is just the data that we have, and then Mrs. Lewis is going to share some about our curriculum that the board graciously approved last year and how it's working and that sort of thing.
So the last time I presented, I was sharing our curriculum recommendation. So here's an update about how it's going. So the elementary EL teachers began using carousel of ideas towards the beginning of the school year. So at the elementary level, based on their OELPS or OELPA score, students are placed into tiers, and students in tiers 2 and 3 are pulled for small groups typically during their classroom no new instruction time. Just a side note, these tiers aren't intervention tiers. It's just based on their level of proficiency, as English language development is considered tier 1 instruction for them. So I sent out a survey to get some feedback. I've done some observations. The rating average for the teachers using this curriculum said 3.5 out of 5, with some of the challenges being difficulty to use it with the lowest grades, a need for additional reading materials, and longer writing assignments. Currently, the teachers are supplementing with the Fountas and Pinnell classroom and geodes books, so students are still getting what they need. However, we plan to meet later in the semester to determine if additional supplementals will be needed for next school year. And despite the challenges, overall, teachers like that all 4 domains, the reading, writing, listening, and speaking, with an emphasis on vocabulary, are integrated into each lesson. Several commented on the usefulness of the picture cards and sentence frames, especially for having authentic discussion. Using carousel with small groups allows for a safe place for students to learn and practice the skills that they can take back to the classroom. And lastly, they like most of the assessment pieces, including the student portfolios, to monitor student understanding and progress. Moving on to our secondary curriculum adoption, we went with National Geographic Learning Products, time zones for the middle school, and LIFT for the high school. At the secondary level, students are enrolled in EL classes for the specialized instruction. Because the teachers didn't receive their last formal product training until November, we just started fully implementing this semester. So it's still pretty new for our teachers, but so far they're rating it 4 out of 5. One challenge with time zones is that it doesn't include fiction readings, but it's easy to supplement with HMH from the ELA curriculum. Challenge with Lift is that it doesn't have a strong grammar component. However, we knew this in advance upon reviewing the materials, and we already supplement with the Grammar in Context book. The teachers like that lessons focus on, again, all 4 domain skills, so they can help students develop what typically is not covered in their general ed classroom, or it's assumed that students already know how to do the skills or know this background information. They like the authentic assessments and the highly engaging content, especially the pictures and videos. The materials help students feel like they're in a real class and they're not just being pulled because they're behind or they're lacking something. This one's a little wordy. So there's also a plan, a paper plan, as it's linked in there. So staying on the topic of secondary, I'd like to share the progress on our plan to support EL students at Bullock. Our goals are to meet the state target for ELP and also increase the ELA and math EL subgroup by 10 PI. Some action steps taken to meet our goals. We're adding a 7th grade ESL class. We started the year with just a 6th grade and 8th grade class, but with new students enrolling and more needs, we added the 7th grade class, implementing the new curriculum this semester, and then also adding some of the tier 1, so the higher proficiency EL students into the class to help sharpen their skills, get them some practice testing so they're ready to go. Let's see, we did 2 targeted attendance plans and 3 academic improvement plans have been put into place. Select students are receiving structured assistance from the EL teacher and KSU students that are completing their field work. This is during Tiger Time. Mr. Banya has been an integral part of the plan, helping to connect students and families to resources and increasing family engagement. Lastly, additional efforts have been made to communicate with support staff with strategies for teaching content to EL students. And an in-progress piece of this is elevation. So elevation, when fully implemented, will help every educator develop the capacity to support EL students in their language acquisition and with content mastery. The platform portion assists with data management and compliance. All of the EL teachers have been trained on how to use it and have been working on updating individual English learner plans. So these contain communication information, assessment results, modifications, accommodations, goals that are shared with staff. The strategies component will provide opportunities for PD for all teachers. The online modules are designed to provide information, practice, and reflection. So currently, we are planning to provide some ELPD for all teachers on our April 8th virtual day. And if there's no questions, then next up is Mr. Ganya. He'll be sharing a little bit about himself and his role as our family liaison.
Do you want to click? Maybe you'll be better than us.
I think you're talking.
Yeah, well, that's what's supposed to be.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I just want to show my gratitude by saying thank you for choosing me to be a family liaison for this school district. I really, really, really appreciate that. And as a person who born in a refugee camp in Nepal, being here when I was 14 years old and able to focus on my education, keeping that as my first priority, I was able to obtain higher degree as well, and I'm going to share my journey with you guys this evening. So, like I said, I born in Nepal as a refugee, and I was in my 8th grade back in Nepal before I came to the US, so that was back in 2012 or 13. So, and when I came here, it was around the end of March, beginning of April, so they told me to go into 8th grade because school about to end, and typically I started my schooling here from 9th grade. When I was living in Nepal, not just me, but my family, including every other people who were in a refugee camp, they experience endless discrimination, poverty, feeling of stateless because we were not given the same opportunity as other Nepalese people who have that citizenship in their hand. Um, so I born in Nepal in a refugee camp back in 1998, but my parents fled from Bhutan to Nepal and stayed there as a refugee because of the political reason. According to the story that my family told me, that when they were living in Bhutan, they were experiencing different kind of trauma, such as like though they were killing their children and raping women and things like that, and they were like, and also another biggest thing is like they were not allowing them to practice the religion that we practice, and they were like, either you practice what we want or you are out. So and my family and other people were like, no, this is not right. We will go where we are celebrated. So that's when they went to Nepal and stayed in a refugee camp. And after I came here, I had a handful knowledge on English language skill, and I made a plan, and I'm like, I'm going to work really hard, I'm going to ask a lot of questions, and I'm going to do my best to graduate, get my degree, because I understand the importance of education, because we did not have the same equal opportunity as other people when we are living in a very small refugee camp. I got my high school diploma back in 2017. I obtained my bachelor's degree in social work from the University of Akron, and I'm currently a grad student at Cleveland State University, getting my master's in clinical social work, and I'm graduating in May. So that's my story. Thank you. Thank you. As a person, thank you. As a person whose English is a third language, it was not an easy route for me. I want to be honest here, because English for me was a very tough language at the beginning, especially the grammar. I still don't know how to do grammar sometimes. So I was like, okay, this is the learning phase, so I'm going to do what I can. So my journey, learning, growing, and understanding the different cultures, different perspective, and different expectations that we have in this country. And when I was in high school, I engaged with extracurriculum activity. If you guys know or not, but Miss College, she used to be my former teacher. She was the director of the student ambassador, and I am like, can I please join your team, because I want to learn and all that. And that's how we get to know each other, and she was my former teacher as well. So I was very much involved with my extracurriculum activity, because I wanted to gain that experience of what it like to be a real student, where I'm in the school in a safe place, I'm trying to learn, I'm trying to make my future good and all that. So I engaged with my extracurriculum activities. I definitely prioritize my educations. I seek help with my school staff, whether it is school counselors, and I still remember I would go to my school counselor and say, is there any scholarship that I can use when I go to the college, because I knew school is expensive, and he knows me now. And of course, I seek help with my teachers. I was in ESL program for whole 9th grade and for half of my 10th grade, because at the time, like I said, my English was not that great. So the things that we do here, OLPA and all those OGT, I did the Ohio graduation test and all those kind of thing. And I was able to do good on the OLPA because of the help. And I was very determined, I was very relentless, and I was very focused. And like I said, I prioritized my education very, very, very seriously. And along with that, I was also very much engaged with my community development, because gradually, a lot of people from Nepal started coming to Akron. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Northfield. We have a large group of Nepalese community there, and I was very much involved. I was just trying to help one family to another with interpretations, whether, linking them with the community resources, such as like how to make a primary doctor. Very basic thing, but important thing on all that. I was very much engaged even when I was in high school. So as a family liaison here in the Cuyahoga Falls School District, there are certain things that I have been doing. Of course, my role is mainly focused on working with family, making sure that I am trying to be that mediator for our families to, be in communication with the school, because their children are here, and the goal is that our children can graduate and learn and grow. I'm involved with parent conference meeting and parent communications, whether it is through three-way call, Zoom, in Parent Square, email, letters. I've been doing a lot of translations as well. I'm also very much engaged with ERT and IEP meeting as well, because I have been here for 3.5 months, and I find that our families tend to not know what IEP means. And even though we have when I was not working here, of course we had translated and all that, but me being there and me explaining them word to word help them to make a choice that will help their children to focus more in their academic area. I do home visit, of course, with someone else with me, doing a lot of student support, which I will talk about in the another slide. I've been meeting with the staff member, whether it could be Ms. Lewis, teachers, our team, and all those, and then doing a lot of cultural awareness educations and all that kind of stuff too, because a lot of our teachers do ask me questions about, hey, is it appropriate if I approach this way or that way? And I've been doing a lot of that as well. Of course, doing interpretations, whether it is scheduled on the spot. I've been doing that as well as a family liaison. So this is the pie chart that we created. These are the percentage that you can able to see, and we divided that into percentage to show you guys exactly what I have been doing as a family liaison for whole school district. That's right.
And that's just until the end of January, right? You were gonna
Yes.
mention that?
I was going to mention that. Thank you. I forgot. So this pie chart that you're seeing here is as of January 31st. That's when we created this pie chart. So we didn't include anything that I have been doing since February. And then another pie chart is divided by the building, and you can see that I travel all these schools to help our families and staff and students as well. And by looking at the percentage, you might have a question, and you might have a question like, Amit, why are you on bullying all the time, not in other schools? So there are so many factors. As you can see that our students are like, okay, so what I mean is like, one school has more populations than other school, and sometimes I do three-way call, and that would not count as like, I don't have to go there because I'm doing three-way call or over the Zoom or translating documentations. So that's divided in a building. Oh, there you go. On top of that, I'm also doing additional support directly with the student. And even though I mostly work with staff and families to make sure that our kids are learning and growing in school, I've been also directly helping with the student. As you can see here, I've been helping with their students' choice in life, and especially high school students. Whenever I meet them, I always ensure that, hey, you guys are in high school after, getting your diploma. What's the plan? What are you doing? We have these career focus classes after 11th grade, right? After 11th grade, they can go into career.
After 10.
After 10, yeah. And we've been doing that as well. Engagement and seeking help. Of course, I sit down in the classroom. Dr. Saliko and Ms. Hausman has seen me in the classroom last time. I've been sitting there, and I'm like, I always help them here and there with any question that they have, especially reading and writing and all those kind of thing. I have been joining various groups in school, like cultural and the after-school program. As you can see in the bottom, we have this Tuesday and Thursday after-school program. We are with the Asian Service in Action. We have after-school program from 3:45 to 5:30, depending on when parents come. We focus on different kind of areas: emotional, academic, social, and all those kind of things. I've been also helping students to understand the acculturations and the sharing culture, because obviously when they come here, this is a different culture than what the culture that they have in home. And of course, early college, that's usually open interest. I have been helping students with like hey, are you interested in going into early college? Because if you have a good, standards, you can able to go into that. And I've been helping with them as well. Of course, I always, every time I do this, I always engage with our school counselors to make sure that we have that opportunity. Sharing community resources, that is specifically is very interesting to me, because whenever I'm here helping a student and the family for this student, of course, the parent would ask me, hey, they will ask me an extra question like, hey, do you know how to apply for citizen? Do you know the closest clinic that I can go for my dental or my eyes and all that? Like very basic thing, but I've been helping with them as well. So, hey, here's the thing, you can go here and then this is how you do it, and I've been doing that as well. Of course, absence intervention plan, I work with our attendance liaisons as well. Cultural fair event, we've been trying to bring a lot of cultural events in this school because we wanted to share each other's culture. Lunch bunch, I've been meeting with students to sit down, eat lunch, share about each other's story and learning about each other. Like I went to do it last month, I guess, and we were just like, they were kindergartner and second graders, and we were just talking about what do you want to be when you grow up, and they were like, they'll ask me a question about like if I have something on my forehead, they would be like, what's that? And I've been doing a lot of that thing because they bring their own bodies, and like it's really fun. After school program I already mentioned, and our listeners will talk about our website. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Questions for me
Yeah.
this time?
Do you feel like you have, it seems like you're so busy all the time. Do you feel like there's stuff that you can't do because you're just one person? Do you feel that we need more support for our students? Or do you feel like right now, as we're getting into it, we're good with what we have? If that makes sense.
Yeah, it did, and thank you for that question. So, okay, so I've been here for 3 months and 14 days, to be accurate. At the beginning, I was like, because this is a very new position for our Cuyahoga Falls School District, and I even talked with Ms. Osman, and I'm like, I feel like I have downtime because I was new, and this is the new position, and we were just trying to implement duties, and like, what do I do, where do I go, and all those kind of things. And then slowly everybody started knowing me, and they started seeking help, they started having extra questions for me. I've been like implementing duties, like what I need to do, how can I help children, and all that. Now, as of now, I have been pretty busy, but thanks to my team, everybody has been very, very helpful. We have this link where they can request help if they need me. If it's like last minute and if I'm somewhere else, of course I drive over there, but usually they request help through the link that we already share to all the certified staff. And I've been doing, it's been great. It wouldn't be possible without that team, of course, but I've been doing that, so.
Thank you.
Any other questions, anybody?
Just thank you for your work.
Yes.
Thank you
very
for-
much. We
yeah.
appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your story with us
Of course,
as
no
well.
problem. And thank you, like I said, I am very, very, very grateful that I'm here and I'm sharing what I know and helping our families and students, because I want them to, grow, learn, and take education seriously, because my family had never had that opportunity. My parents have never been to school. They don't even know how to write A. So from that conditions to here, we have more opportunity, and the more opportunity we have, the better it is, right? So I really want everybody, not just the ELE student, but of course everybody, I want everybody to grasp that opportunity and do their best and focus on their career and dream, so, yeah.
All right, so the last thing we will be sharing tonight is our new internal webpage to serve as a landing spot to support all who work with EL students and multilingual families. So here are a couple of screenshots. Staff can view resources, find important information, make requests for interpretation, for Mr. Banya's support, for instructional support. I didn't click it. Oh, now all right, there's the other screenshot. They can find quick links to Elevation, which we'll be using more frequently across the district. They can access our growing bank of translated templates. And additionally, I plan to share new teaching techniques, reading recommendations monthly. And this is live, but parts of it are still under construction, so it will be shared with all staff soon. And with that, we're concluding our presentation. If there are any additional questions?
I don't have a question, I just want to share one point for the board because I know one of the other things that, there's two other areas that long-term we have as a board expressed some concern about. And I talked with Mrs. Hausman about that. And so those are still being worked on. I just want us all to be aware of that. And the first is, say you're the one student in our district that speaks Kurdish and or the family of that one student. What are the ways in which we reach out to you and make sure that we are meeting all of your needs, and say something happens with your student and we need to connect with you that day? I know as a board we've raised some concerns about things we've seen or heard about that, and so Ms. Hausman has a pin on that, and they're gonna keep working on that because some of our rarer languages can be more challenging at times in certain ways and places and spaces, especially when there's that urgency. And, you know, when we can plan, we got the plan. I've talked to Mrs. Lewis about that before. She's got people for every one of these languages. She knows which company she needs to call for every one of these languages, literally off the top of her head. It's quite impressive. But in those kind of more urgent situations, what are we doing to make sure we're meeting these needs and letting our families know? So that's one thing, and I want our board to know that it is still being worked on. And the other thing was about like how we onboard when our new EL families come in and what that process looks like. That's something that they are going to continue to work on. So those two pieces that I know board members have shared, questions, comments, concerns about, are still being worked on. I talked with Mrs. Hausman about, she has notes on that. So that's not part of tonight's presentation. Lots of wonderful work to celebrate, but just wanted my fellow board members who have shared questions about that to be aware we're continuing to do work, even deeper work, and how to even better serve these families. So, thank you all.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Next up, presentation number 2 is ESSER funding presentation. Ms. Stoikoi.
Oh, okay.
I'll let you have it, Patty.
No, don't. No, it's okay. It's important.
just gonna say, I'm gonna laugh if it comes up and is like, no, after all of that.
You wanna just get started?
Yeah, I'll get a different copy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of gonna ruin my whole delivery here, Ryan. It's not great comedic timing.
I'm having a great time.
Let's just get going.
All right. So this is, we, as you know, are required to report out on our ESSER 3 funds twice a year. That was part of the shtick when they gave us these funds. And so we're just going to do a little recap. I think the last time we talked was in August. Not many changes or anything different, just kind of what's been spent, you know, along the way. Okay. So there are two grants under this. There is the general ESSER, and then there's also, as part of the ARP, the American Rescue Plan, they did the Title 6B, which is our special ed, that does that as well. So for the general ESSER 3, that's the one we're going to start with. We got a little over $5 million. Funds are available for expenditures between March 13th, 2020, so we were allowed to backdate those, and November 30th, 2024. And you may notice that that date is different than previous presentations, because as I was reading the wording, I wasn't sure that it was very clear. So it used to say September 30th. That's when they have to be obligated. But because I use the word expenditures in here, I changed it to November 30th. So obligated would mean encumbered into a PO by September 30th, but then we get those 2 months to process it, the invoices, and actually pay. Oh, look, okay. You know, okay, so I always have to come up with some sort of theme, and I don't think we've done this one, and I can't believe this. Who doesn't love some soft kitty? Right? I can't believe I haven't done this one. This is one of my favorite shows. See?
Yep.
Yep, we're excited.
I don't think I know that. Is it? when they
The
say
Big Bang Theory?
that phrase.
Soft kitty one.
That's what his mom
Kitty,
sang to Sheldon
warm
to put him to
kitty,
sleep.
little ball of fur.
I did though. I just wanted to.
I know. All right, so here's what I just talked about, that every 6 months review and as appropriate revise its plan. So let's get right into it. Chop chop. We don't got much time left to spend on this, we're chop chopping. All right, so if you remember, this is kind of divided into the sections the way it is approved in ODE in the CCIP. And so if you remember, unlike other federal grants, this is also like carryover. So we started this in the 21-22 school year, and that brings us up to this year. So there are 3 years history worth of expenditures. So for salary and benefits, 2 of our literacy specialists are paid for out of this grant. And this year, the social workers, now that they are part of the union, have moved from that purchase services section to salaries and benefits because they're actually getting paid by us and not through the ESC. So you can see where we're at. This would have been kind of as of mid-February with salaries and benefits. And you can see what is remaining there. That should take us through the end of this contract year with these staff, which would be through August of '24.
General question, on all of these, for the amounts remaining, are those all already encumbered?
So no, so if it's encumbered right now, it'll be under total encumbered.
Okay.
And then the amount remaining is what's been budgeted minus any expenditures and encumbrances. So that's money that's sitting there that has not been obligated yet.
But it will be obligated
Technically, these are.
in the new in next year's budget.
Say that again.
In our next budget, it would be encumbered. When will we encumber those funds?
They'll have to be encumbered by September 30th of '24.
And are they covered under this plan, or are they available funds?
They're all available right now. Yeah. So what happens is at the end of each fiscal year, I do like a final expenditure report for the year, and then they take that and then say, here's your carryover amount of what's left, budget that for the year. So let's just say at the end of this year, we still had like 300,000 unencumbered. They would say, as of July 1st, give us the plan, for that $300,000. But it's all available now. It's kind of confusing because it crosses
Oh,
years.
My question is, so we've got like $225,000 here, and the amount remaining under these two lines.
Uh-huh.
What are we doing with that $225,000?
So this one is a little different just because you don't do purchase orders for salary and
Yeah.
benefits. So that will all be spent. Salaries and benefits are never encumbered. They would show up under that encumbered, things that are like on purchase orders for like services and things like that. So all the rest of these would show up as encumbered. These will get paid through the end of their contract, which their last pay is at the end of August. And those are the amounts remaining for those pays and benefits.
So all these pennies will be spent.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
0.
Yeah. So
The grand total-
we project out what their
so the grand
monthly
total
costs are.
remaining will be 0.
Yeah. So this would
That's
be
really
0.
my question is,
Yes.
as we go through all this
Yes.
presentation,
Yeah. I mean, it'll all be 0 by
I
September
know, but
30th.
my
But yes,
question is, what money is potentially on
available.
the table?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
What money's
So this
not
is not, even though it
Yeah.
says amount remaining. No, this is not, because that is
That's why I'm
what
excited
the
to
cost
find
of the
out.
salary and benefits for those individuals
Yes.
will be through August.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Purchase services, so there are some things, again, that like we're no longer doing now, so some of the things under there, the YMCA after school program was one that we did, that we were paying for, and then, different things transpired where there different grants and things like that. So we are no longer paying that this year. You can see the 2 social workers. At the time, we paid, over the summer for them still through the ESC because of that stretch pay. But then the remainder of that has been moved to salary and benefits. So you can see there's nothing remaining there. And then the scanning that was done for all of our student files and our fiscal files and our HR files with SC View was done. There is still a little under 13,000 remaining there that is available. Keep in mind, anytime we do make any of those changes, it goes through a revision process in the CCIP that has to be approved by ODE. So that's all that is remaining under there. Supplies, this is probably our biggest category. This is where all the textbook adoptions fall, and you can kind of see where we're at this year. We've done some things with math K-5. We've done some things with ELA 612. We've paid for class fees for the last few years and waived those for families other than career tech and a few other things. In those particular ones where you see class fees and you see an amount remaining, it's not necessarily an amount remaining that's free at the time. That one's a little more of an unknown because they put those requisitions on as they need them. But there is potential there to have some available
Yeah.
to move around.
That's our hope.
I just don't know what that figure will be. Because it just kind of is going to be what we look at.
So
and
that
what
would
we
be
s-
probably more like June,
Yeah.
which we would that have enough time to go through the CCIP process with ODE to get that approved, to get them encumbered by September?
Yeah,
if
so
we
they're
have
gonna
money
they
to-
require us to redo it every July 1st anyway. So we'll have to do it July 1st. Whatever funds are remaining, we'll have to, whether we put them in the exact same spots they've been approved for right now or remove it, we're gonna have to do it come July 1st anyway, no matter what.
I know we've talked and we've all talked, and that's, if there's any way to like lessen that burden
Yeah.
on our families' pockets next year through this.
Yeah.
That would
Yeah.
be our
And the-
number one priority of remaining
Yeah.
funds.
And I think it's going to be, and we're having those conversations. Part of it is that, they have to be obligated by September 30th. So they make purchases for these fee things because some of them are supply-based, consumable-based throughout the year. And so we're going to have to kind of look at how that timing works out too. Are they going to be able to they're probably not gonna be able to get everything they need. If, let's say, there was to be enough money left over, they're probably not gonna be able to know everything they're gonna need by September 30th. Which means there would have to be some sort of contingency plan going forward. But that'll be a little clearer once we get to what that number is at the end of this school year. And if those amounts are big enough, we think to kind of get as much as we can and go forward. But we're having those conversations
Yeah.
right now.
Because we definitely didn't make the promise to our community that we would waive them again next year, but also
Correct.
it's a burden. It's gonna be a burden. So
Yeah.
kind of that in between year of like, how can we help people ease back?
Yeah, yeah. So, stay tuned on that portion of it. And you can see that in math, we have kind of held off on that adoption that was scheduled, and there's about almost $410,000 there. We are still awaiting, if and how much funding we'll get for, the reading, and different things like that. So we're kind of waiting for some more definitives there to see, what our own out-of-pocket cost may be for changing that curriculum, at the elementary levels, that, was purchased previously.
If I had to guess, Mrs. Hausman's gonna come in under that math number based on what I've been reading in her reports of her negotiation tactics.
Yeah.
It seems like she's getting quite the discount.
Yes. So, and again, like I said, so that'll be we're waiting on that math figure, and then also waiting kind of the particulars of that elementary literacy part that, we may unexpectedly have to shell some out of pocket. We don't know how much yet. So, cause they've not really given us any definitive on, what they would help, how much, or what that formula is for helping us make those changes if the curriculum wasn't on the approved list.
We still don't have the final list for us
Correct.
to even look at to know what we want to go with as
Correct.
what's best for our students and
Yeah.
our staff to teach from.
So that's a little bit of a hang up with that as well. So, but we will figure something out to make use of those. Following up a little more with supplies, these are more of your support services and operations as opposed to instructional. As you know, we have Go Guardian. We've been paying for that. Some of those were paid out of earlier ESSER grants, ESSER 1, ESSER 2, so it's not that we didn't pay for it out of a grant funded originally, it's just it may be split amongst the grants. And then custodial supplies, which obviously we have spent a lot on since the beginning of the pandemic in making sure the facilities are clean and safe for staff and students. So most likely, as you can see, there's not a lot encumbered in custodial supplies. They kind of do 3-month POs and then regenerate new ones and stuff. So that $25,000 will be spent probably by the end of this fiscal year. And finally, capital outlay. We've already gone over before the instruments. We bought some that we could loan out to students that perhaps couldn't afford them on their own, and so we bought some back in '22. And then if you recall, we did the buildings, we did the bipolar air ionization, which was split between this and other ESSER fund funding. So you're looking at your grand totals right now, and so we have spent a little over $4 million of the $5 million. There's about 880 left, but keep in mind, you're not really counting that salary and benefits number in there. So if you take that out, you're closer to 650-ish. And some things, again, on the horizon, still in plan. The big ones are gonna be the textbooks and the class fees going forward. And it's so interesting. Gosh darn it, that's so interesting. And I'm sure you all have goosebumps with this riveting information. Follow up the Title 6B. We got about $237,000, a little over. So these were available from July 29, 2022 through this past November. So this grant has expired per se. It's all been spent. and these funds are no longer available, but here is how the final shakeout is. These are for allowable purposes that would be under our regular Title 6B, which is a regular annual federal grant we get for special education. And there was the equitable services for the non-publics that opted into this as well. So both Redeemer and IHM opted in for their share and spent some of this money as well, that 237. So, the way you think. So, salaries, because it's a little more difficult and it's a little more restrictive to spend this as opposed to the regular ESSER 3, which kind of has broader categories, things. This was a little more targeted, and we were approaching the end, and some of the things that we had planned for, it didn't end up costing that much, and so we did have a little bit of an amount remaining, which we used to offset some of the salaries of our intervention specialists in K-12 at the beginning of this school year. So that was about a little over $28,000. Purchase services, if you recall, we contracted with the ESC for the behavior specialist, BCBA, to do the training for our paraprofessional attendant staff. So that was over the course of 2 years. And then we did some Wilson and RBT training. So we bought, you'll see on the next slide, we have some Wilson supplies and some textbooks and curriculum. And then there was also professional development and training that went along with those adoptions. And then you can see where the two non-publics are. They both used a portion for tutoring services for their special education students. And here it shows that Wilson's Foundations that we bought. And then we also bought some additional classroom supplies to supplement those additions to the classrooms. And then IHM also used part of theirs for some additional classroom supplies for their special ed students. So at the end of the day, we spent the entire amount. There is none remaining. That grant has been closed out and is all done. Did you love it? Me fair Fowler? Bazinga. Any questions?
I just have one comment. I'm really proud of our treasurer's office and our administration for how they planned and spent these ESSER dollars. I see districts across the state freaking out because they went out and hired a bunch of staff, and they don't know what they're going to do now. We were very thoughtful, and we used this to buy things that maybe we wouldn't have been able to afford otherwise, that have really made a difference in terms of the academic improvements, and it's making facility improvements, hopefully making also our staff's lives a little bit better by giving them higher quality resources to teach from and improvements to their workspaces as well. And those are sustainable things that we don't have to sit here and stress about and have now a 30-minute conversation about what are we going to do because we don't have the money to sustain these things. So I'm just really thankful to our treasurer, staff, and our administration for being so thoughtful about how we spent these monies.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about it at Finance Committee on Tuesday, that a lot of the things we did really, we were just able to do it, and we had planned without these funds and before the pandemic, but we were able to kind of accelerate those. So, Chromebooks being one-to-one and that was in a long-term plan to, go over many years and get to that point. And then with these pandemic funds, we were able to speed up that process a little bit, but they were already things that were in our long-range planning that we were fortunate enough to be able to kind of get a jump on earlier than we expected. Social workers being one of them, lots of things like that. So it is nice to have those planned and know, what's not having a big dump back into your general fund of costs that, were unexpected or that happened because we were just spending. So, yeah, certainly helpful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
so much.
Item E is Treasurer CFO's Business Consent Agenda. Ms. Stoykoy.
Yes, I'd like to recommend that the Board of Education approve all items in the treasurer's consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a couple things real quick. Appropriations, number one, I sent you an email yesterday in regards to adding the Fund 022 back to the appropriations. Back when it was still allowable to be a cashless facility for athletics, OHSAA had made all of their postseason tournaments cashless as well. And so at the time, because we were not receiving any of the funds at the door for these tournaments, because those are OHSAA funds, they're not our district funds, because we were receiving them, they were running through our books. And then we would pay whatever was left over after our expenses to OHSAA. Because we were not handling any cash, they determined that that no longer needed to be done in a separate custodial account, that it could run just through your regular athletic fund in that sense. And then, of course, as we know, we had to go back, and so now they do accept cash. And so now the auditor came out again, like, it was literally like a year later. It was like, you gotta go back to using the 022. So in speaking with KJ, we will be hosting a boys basketball sectional tournament game on the 28th. So there is a need. We didn't have anything appropriated there. We will be making payments to our game help and officials and those things out of there. So there was an increase there. And then, as we mentioned before, food service, just due to the some of the commodities things and the reductions from the state and federal levels have caused us to, have to go other places that may be a little bit more expensive, but it's really our only option. Food service has the money to cover this within their fund. We just didn't anticipate having expenses be this high, so we added $150,000 there to cover us for the year end. The 450.
Those are food service funds.
Yes, yeah, yes. They have the funds in there to do so. Are just the total expenses for the year are going to be a little bit higher than what we originally anticipated at the beginning of the year. 457 plan restatement. We've done this before for different things, but this one in particular is we had a vendor, one of our vendors is Equitable, who has an advisor who has went out on their own, but he has a lot of relationships with many staff in our district, and so they have chosen to follow him like you follow a hairdresser or, all sorts of things like that. And so he is under a company that was not authorized under our plan. And so this is basically putting that company on so it's an available option to those employees in our district to continue to work with him. And he's been great in the district and with my office and anything we need. So we were happy to do that. So this just adds him to those of that allowable list per se and gets us our IRS compliance stuff all in order with that. And then the last thing is just the donations. Just two here, but Ben Curtis, which we are familiar with, and the Summit County Master Gardeners, but always appreciative of anything anybody can give.
Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, please call the roll.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Thank you. Item F is your comments.
I do not have any this evening.
Thank you. Item G is Superintendent CEO's Business Consent Agenda. Dr. Selka.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve all items listed in the superintendent's consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? Dr. Selka?
Yes, some routine items here relative to personnel. We have a proclamation for the National Career and Technical Education Month for February, celebrating our 6th district compact and all that they do for our students. We have an overnight field trip request along with the contract for services. This is, I think, something they do annually. This is the student council taking the students to Camp Wainoa. It's a leadership opportunity for our students, not too far away from us, but it's a Saturday to a Sunday. We also have 2 memorandums of understanding of the University of Akron and Stark State. I want to note, point out too that in that contract, and I know Julie goes through those contracts for me and points out the differences and provided those for you as well, that there will be an increase in some cost, a slight at Stark and then a little bit more substantial at Akron University. So there's, again, a financial hit a little bit for us, but we know these are great opportunities for students, but it does come with a cost, and, you know, we wish the state would be a little bit more helpful in helping us offset that cost, but great opportunities for our students, so I just want to point that out. And then we also have the 3rd grade assessments, and again, this is declaring that we would, the paper pencil formats. Again, this is for next year, and then the contract for services, I'll have Mr. Begay speak to in the Southeast Security, Mr. Hutch, but then lastly, just the Ohio High School Athletic Association, which is the yearly contract for them. So I'll turn to
This
you,
is
John.
for the right of way for the city to be able to do business with an easement on our property. This is because of the lane, the actual lane being put in on Portage. So, sort of an easement right of way, they'll be able to do a description of giving them that access.
Mr.
Yeah, Southeast Security is just an upgrade to our fire alarm systems to make sure that they're accurately reporting. They accurately report fire just fine, but they also want to make sure they report if there's trouble within that fire system. It also reports to the alarm monitoring company that the system is not functioning properly. We want to make sure that system is in optimal working order.
Questions or comments from the board? Question for Ms. Joycoy. Are we using our soft cost contingency funding for the McSteen land surveyors?
I'm in discussion with Hammond about that. It won't be general fund, I do know
Okay,
that, but
good.
I'm just not exactly sure which other pot yet. I'm waiting on confirmation
Okay.
from them, whether, them and OFCC, whether we can.
It'll
move
come from
through.
construction funding though. Wonderful, thank you. I appreciate that. The other thing, 2 other things I wanted to mention. I wanted to give a shout out to Ms. Bogdan. She did some research and was able to modify a past practice so that we can be a little bit kinder to people going forward in terms of a certain personnel situation. I don't want to be too specific, but just wanted to give her a shout out and appreciate the additional work she did on that. And then the 3rd grade assessments in the paper format, I just want to appreciate, we had a lot of conversation, a lot of people had a lot of conversation. We appreciate the conversation, and we look forward to having continued conversation about how possibly we might phase out of that going forward, because I think as a board, we recognize that I think our goal is to get to a place where we're not doing that, but we learned a lot through these conversations, and we're happy to have additional conversations to get us there, and I know that that's part of your plan, so we look forward to that as well. I think we're all open to that conversation, so thank you. Okay. Please call the roll.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer? Aye. Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye. And item H is Superintendent CEO's business, Dr. Selkow.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. First and foremost, I will be out of the district tomorrow afternoon and Friday. I will be heading on a brief vacation. And after the last 2 weeks, I'm really looking forward to it. So Mrs. Hausman, have at it. Have this chair for you. It's nice and hot, ready to go. We had a few events just worth noting. Today I took the Soups Troops over to Journey Church, the pantry on the corner again. So it's just so sweet to watch our students with some people who are, some are a little bit older, and they really appreciate, they've shared with me too, having the younger kids there to do the heavy lifting, and it's just so sweet to watch, and they genuinely love it, and they keep asking if we can go back, and I said, is this just because you want to get out of your 3rd period class? Because your teacher's starting to get a little mad at me. So we're going to space it out a little bit, but had a good time with them today. We have been, I'm working on a couple things I'll be taking on the plane with me. I'll do some writing for our Roar and our Tiger Tales, but I also am going to be working on a professional development opportunity that I'm actually going to facilitate with the help of some of my colleagues, but relative to our DEI and B work. I'm also going to be inviting you if you're able to attend some of that, I'll be giving you more details, but we're gonna be viewing a film that is related to our work with equity and identity, our identities, and tying that together along with our implicit and explicit bias. So we're gonna do some training on that on both March and April 8th. So March 19th, I believe it is when we'll be viewing. That'll be from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock in our auditorium. Encourage you if you're able. I know that we have work schedules and such, but if not, I certainly will share what movie that is when it's time. And if you'd like to view it and have some conversation with us. So I'll be working on that, as well as State of the Schools will be coming up soon. It's April 18th. It seems far away, but we know that I'll be here before you know it. We're working on getting some student groups together to participate in that, and then just kind of brainstorming how I want to tackle that. 6 o'clock is our reception. 6:30 will be the actual.
Okay, thank you.
And that'll be in Little Theater again. Wish I could say I could pack the auditorium, but I'm just not that popular. So we'll be in the Little Theater.
Sometimes it's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. Yeah, it's okay. We have our safety night coming up. I've been previewing that a little bit with Mr. Gesford and our guests from the FBI coming, and police chief. This will be his last hurrah. He'll be retiring. Very thankful to Chief Davis and all he's done for us. But that is going to be Wednesday evening, and I put that in your Friday report too, so you'll get those details. And then we also are working on our field trip handbook that you are going to see for your consideration. We've been, unfortunately, last couple Mondays, things have been coming up where I've had to work on other things related to other items. So we haven't been able to work on that, but we do want you to know we're going to revise, like for example, the form you saw this evening, it's a little outdated. We need to get that up to speed. So we'll be doing that. And then lastly, I just wanted to point out a little recognition for a couple of our board members. I had received a letter from Ohio School Boards Association recognizing a couple of our board members who went through, there's a training, I had to educate myself a little bit on this, but there's an award that is given, and it's STAR, the acronym STAR. It's an awards program, and there's different trainings and different things that our board members can do, and they can earn different letters. S is service, T is training, A is aptitude, and R is recognition. And both Mr. Gomez and Mrs. Schaefer received their T award for training, and so we just wanted to congratulate them. There is a dinner. Unfortunately, we have it on the board meeting night, but there's a second one, but I believe that's just a little farther away, but I think Mr. Gomez whispered to me that he's gonna try to go to that one instead, to be recognized, and I think we went to one for you last year. Mr. Gomez.
In the fall.
Yes,
He
we
loves
did.
this recognition. Okay, so with that said, Mr. Gomez, congratulations, and Mrs. Shaker. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Just say, on behalf of the Board of Education, these last 2 weeks have not been your favorite 2 weeks since you've been our superintendent, but at the same time, I think as a Board of Education, we are very appreciative over these last 2 weeks that you are our superintendent. It reminds us how happy we are that you are our superintendent as these issues come up and they need dealt with. That we're very grateful that we have you in that seat dealing with these issues, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item I is board business, number 1, program of studies. It's a second read and up for approval. It's recommended the Board of Education approves program of studies for the Cuyahoga Falls High School for the 2024-2025 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
I had some questions about the French program.
Yes.
And I went back and listened to the board meeting from last year, and I assumed that the verbiage used last year, I assumed that we were gonna phase out French, instead of just dropping it off. And so I had some concerns that students might not have the opportunity to get their, honors diploma, if they're on the French thing. So I had some questions. I know you answered a lot of questions for me. I would like to hear if anyone else had any concerns about that, or if they, because I still feel very much on the fence with it. I would like to see people that are in French be able to finish out their French. I know it sounds like it doesn't affect a lot of students.
Yeah, and I mean, I certainly can address that, and I can appreciate the concern. We have the same concern, which is why we were working last year real hard to try to come up with an alternative, an option for those students. It is about 15, but of those 5 have already gotten their 3 years in, so if they qualify for the other requirements, that they could get their honors diploma. So there's about 10 students. But if they want to also do 4, we haven't had any students enroll in French 4 in the last couple of years, at least. If not, we didn't look back further than that. But the plan would be, one from here is to, one, we know the option is CCP is an option. We did not want to prematurely make any decisions, so we have not had the counselors talk to the students yet that are affected, but we know who those students are, obviously. So the plan would be to meet with them one-on-one with our counselors. We do have, as an alternative, if CCP is not something that the students would want to, participate in, because we know that is a little bit of a different commitment, and some of those children are involved in CCP courses, we know who they are. But we could look at hiring a teacher to come in, a teacher that could do that 1 or 2 classes or sections, and it would just be a part-time teacher. Because to pay for a full-time teacher is quite costly for 1 class to be taught. So, but we believe we can find a way to get a teacher in to teach those students, if that would be the direction that the board would prefer. Now, with that said, if we vote tonight on the program of studies, and we wanted to, if it were to pass, we could certainly come back and make an amendment. Then it would give us the chance to then do some legwork on getting those students situated. And I can come back to the board and say, look, we're gonna recommend that we teach 1 more section of French, and then we could vote again on a different issue.
So, and just for clarification for me, so if we accept the program studies this evening, vote and approve it, and it's without the French 3 and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, for next year, and then we speak to students and we feel that they really would benefit from French 3, then that is something then there'll be a further discussion.
Yes, we believe we could find someone to teach that course.
I'm not sure that, CCP is an option, like, as you said, for all students, going on campus. I didn't know if there was a remote option.
We did
I
a
didn't
lot
know.
of exploration,
Yeah.
and we've talked to all the campuses. Akron, Akron does not offer it. Is it Akron that doesn't? And Kent and Stark do?
Yeah, Akron and Kent offer it, but not online.
Right.
And then Stark does not offer it at all.
Stark's the one that doesn't offer it at all, yeah. So, but there's no online option, because we did try that. Now, what I've been involved in previous places, like Mandarin, for example, in my previous life, I had 4 children who wanted to take it, and it was not feasible for us to run that. So there were opportunities to do distance learning with other districts, like Rocky River offered it at the time, and, we could pay a fee to join that. Now, is that ideal? Probably not, but is it an option? Sure, we could explore.
I have a lot of concerns about what Ms. Schaefer shared as well, but I also have concerns about how it's been handled, because as a board, the only thing that we really had a concern about when it was presented to us was the world languages piece, and there were some questions Mrs. Schaefer shared about ASL, but we got a pretty clear response, and we appreciate that. But then, so the only open questions we still have were about the French piece. And firstly, we had a staff member speculating about another staff member's employment status in a public meeting when we didn't know the status of that staff member's employment status. And that's an issue, because if you read our public comment policy, I'd have to gavel somebody down if somebody came up here and said that in public comment. So that's an issue for me. We shouldn't be speculating as to whether someone is going to retire or not if they have not retired, because that's not appropriate. And again, our public comment policy, a community member would have to be gavelled down because they're not supposed to talk about other staff members in that sort of way. So I think that was very inappropriate. And the other thing that really irks me, and I still haven't gotten a question as to why this exactly happened, but I went to freshman orientation for our 8th graders last night. We got last week, and we got a folder. And then, as we know, there's these little, there's these new things that are attached to the program of studies. The only one that was handed out was the world languages one. And that's the only topic that the board had questions about. And the staff member that presented the program of studies was actively making sure that family members took this. I have real problems about how that's handled. And to me, there's a lack of professionalism and a sense of forcing the board's hand. And it really irks me. And then I even asked for, and we never got a clear answer on why this happened. But it shouldn't have happened, because again, this hasn't been approved. This is new this year. So this should have never been handed out. So the whole process is really gross to me. And making assumptions about what we're gonna do when it's the only thing that any board members had any questions about really bothers me. So I can't vote to approve this tonight. That's for me, and that's what I have to do going forward. And as always, I don't blindside our superintendent. I've had a lot of conversations about this, and she knows that I have a lot of respect for her. And I don't enjoy voting no on things. I pretty much universally defer to her recommendation, almost always. So I don't like voting no on things, but I really feel that for me, that's what I have to do tonight, for my personal integrity of how this was handled. So that's just for me. Other people do what you need to do, and I respect that, so I respect my colleagues on the board.
Well, Mr. Gomez, I didn't know anything about that until you just brought that up with the 8th grade. I guess my question is, with this program of studies, what kind of timeline are we looking at that we need to approve it tonight, or is there an option to have further discussion so we can come to a more comfortable resolution on everything?
Yeah, it would really put us in a hard spot. Those of, high school scheduling should be going on now, frankly. So yeah, we are up against that. That's our issue, you know, administratively. Could we do something conditionally, like let the students start to, since there's only issue is French, if you would just allow us to to have children start their scheduling, like as a condition, even though it hasn't been formally approved. Sure, we could do that, but it would, if we waited 2 more weeks, we'd be in a lot of trouble. I would imagine, Mr. Smith, would that be, am I accurately reflecting that?
Yeah, that would be correct.
Is this the normal time that we would normally be approving this? So do we always cut it this close then, when we're approving a program of studies, where we have to approve it right now, or it's gonna cost
Last
our-
year,
I'll defer.
it was presented February 8th, and we
Okay.
waived second reading.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it wouldn't have even been approved until the end of February.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should personally, and I'll say this to my team, we should probably shoot for a January presentation if we can. I mean, we don't have, you do a good job of updating it and getting it ready. I know there's a lot of discussions, but if we don't have a lot of changes from year to year, I think we can manage that and have it a vote for February, because, and again, every district's different. I have been known to start our scheduling in January, frankly, in my other places, and we can make it happen, I think. But for now, we're up against a timeline.
For me, as a board member, you know, I'm not new, but like, we've been doing this for a couple of years, and that's kind of how we have been doing it. But like, there was an issue now, and I feel like we have to do it. I feel like pressure, we have to, and I'm not 100% comfortable, and I hate not being 100% comfortable, and, you know, feel like I should be voting yes for something. And literally, there's just that one small piece, and everything else, I feel, you know, the ASL program, I'm so excited over that, and all the work that was done with that, and getting it so that it'll meet the requirements. That was a lot of work and questions asked. I'm
So
very proud of
if-
the work that was done on that.
And in the future, so the way it's set up, and this is not uncommon in districts, but we do a presentation, and 2 weeks later, we vote on it. So we would hope, and if the 2 weeks is not enough time to get your questions answered, maybe we need to reconsider and, you know, back that up a couple weeks, so you have more time, because
Well, even if it's just the 2 weeks is good, but then if there is a problem, then we would have just like a little bit of cushion to, so we don't feel,
yeah, I think none of us want to scramble, right? I mean, like, I've
Correct,
been
yeah.
scrambling a little bit to get your questions answered, and not that, I
and
mean, my bosses all do it, but
I
yeah.
appreciate, I know a lot of time has gone into that.
It's been the worst possible last 2 weeks for you to
Yeah.
be doing this as well.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is there a
Your
way?
answer didn't get answered, I'm sorry,
No.
did it? On the timeline.
Well, no, it did get answered. The timeline is that it needs approved, basically, is what they're saying.
ASAP.
Or it's to the detriment of our students moving forward. So, that question was answered. I guess my follow-up question would be, is there a way to approve, and I guess, Mr. Gomez, this would be more a question pointed towards you, is there a way for us to approve this with the stipulation of the French piece being revisited in 2 weeks? Can we, or is it an all or nothing approval?
This is your second read, right? So
Mhm.
if you have questions on that, you could make maybe a motion to amend to approve it aside from the French piece, because this is your time for
Well,
feedback.
there's no French in it though.
Well, if you just take out that piece of it and saying that there's consideration that we're just not gonna approve the French section. Because when we come back to you, it'll address your questions and concerns.
To amend that we're not approving the rescission of French.
Well,
Yes.
From
Well,
fire.
here,
your secretary. Well, I'm like in my mind thinking
Robert's
of
rules.
like because it's not in there right now. So you're just
Yeah.
approving what's in there. Does it specifically say like of a remove? No. I mean,
No.
you could come back in 2 weeks and do an addendum then to
Look,
that.
that's what I was
An
suggesting.
addendum to add.
Yeah.
An addendum to the program of studies for whatever, you know, it is that, if that's the direction you go or whatever you do with French, you could do it as an addendum to, no, I don't know what that does, the scheduling, I'm just looking at like the official approval part of it, board meeting part of it, so I don't,
Yeah.
I don't know if not having that information impedes the
I get what
schedule
you're
process.
That would work. I
Because
mean,
you're really not approving anything with French, and if you came back and
Yeah.
Well,
had an
the only-
addendum to
Approving
it.
everything in here, we just would like.
And
to
the
get-
only people eligible would already be, it's not like a new
Yes.
student.
Right.
No.
We know who they are. We know who
Yes.
all 15 students
Yeah.
are. So and that was my original suggestion, I think, maybe when I was talking with a couple of you today about, you know, maybe amending it,
Yeah.
you know, adding that amendment at the end. So that would be probably a solution that would fit what I'm hearing the board's needs are and the administration.
We just have to figure out how to phrase it. I think that's what we're stuck on.
Yeah.
I don't know that you need to do anything with
yeah.
it tonight, so I think you can just
That's what I'm
approve
looking
it
back
as
just to
is.
see.
I mean, I can always put the comment in the minutes that states, you know,
And then we would.
that there is a potential for an addendum, in regards to the world language.
And then
piece.
request that that be a future agenda item in 2 weeks.
I think that would give us what we need, because the students can go ahead and, they would start to schedule, and then our counselor would meet with each one of those 15 students, explain what's happening, what's going on, get a feel for what they need and want for next year, and then, by then I'll know in 2 weeks for sure what course of action we would recommend to you.
If they're not interested in taking French, or would prefer to take it as a CCP class, then it's
Or
a
on
moot point.
campus, yeah, right,
Yep.
yes.
So do we need a motion to table this item?
I don't think that's what we're
Okay.
trying to do.
Okay. Are we gonna, okay.
I think,
I think the motion would be to approve it as is.
Okay.
And then trusting that there's gonna be an amendment then in 2 weeks, after speaking with the children. Or at the very least, you'll have an update if it is like Mrs. Schaefer suggesting that,
Okay.
kids are fine with CCP, or they just don't wanna take it, and that solves our issue. However, if they're saying to us, no, we'd rather take it on campus, then I would come to you and say, we'd like to have our a French teacher teach a period or 2 sections a day, or whatever that is.
I would be comfortable with that if someone came up with wording.
If there was a way to word that we know that we can, and ensure is not the right word, because I trust that in 2 weeks we are going to revisit this, but if there's a way to word that it is going to be on the next
Yeah, so
agenda.
someone makes a motion to approve it,
Pending.
You can't say pending.
yeah, approve it
Because I
as-
keep thinking contingent, and you can't say that either. Because you have to approve it, and what we want to do, our end goal is to approve it with a requirement that there be,
a solution to
Us.
French, or a recommendation for French.
okay, I think I got it.
Okay.
So, can I, before you do
Yes.
that real quick?
Don't lose your thought.
I know, I don't want you to lose your thought. Like, and you want that to be part of official action, or do you want it to be memorialized in,
I think the goal is to change the resolution language, where it says recommended, we would change this language. So it would still approve this, so we get that checkbox done. But then the concerns also are assuaged formally. And
through,
then everyone will be on board.
through action, that
I
piece
think-
of it? Because like, right now, it's just saying you're approving program of studies 24-25 school year.
With the requirement that there be a presentation on a solution on the French piece at the February 28th meeting.
Correct. And do you want that piece, that
I
second
want it to
piece,
be in the
to be
motion.
voted? Okay,
Yes.
you want it to be voted
Yes.
on? Okay, as I was saying,
I
if you
think-
want it to be voted
Yeah.
on, or what?
I think
or
our
whether you want it
answer to make
memorialized.
everyone comfortable
I think
is
so.
yes.
So you change the
And then we
motion.
get everything done, and then we can just move on with our lives, hopefully.
Okay.
Does that make sense? For the board? So I'll make a motion to amend the motion to include the language, after school year, and to require a presentation on the future of French at the February 28th board meeting.
Say that one more time.
And to require a presentation on the future of French at the February 28th board meeting.
I'll second.
Discussion on the amendment. Does that language work for administration? It's broad enough. Okay.
I'm just capturing this one for you.
Please call the roll on the amendment.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Discussion on the motion as amended. Or are we all good? Ms.
I
Coco?
think that that's a
Yeah.
good compromise and solution, so that our students can do what they need to do, our
Yep.
staff can do what they need to do, and we're ensuring that our students that would be affected by this, we are following up with.
Any further discussion? Ms. Stoika, please call the roll on the motion as amended.
Ms. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Thank you. Number 2 is future agenda items. We got the one. Further future agenda items that aren't already on our list. Anything new that needs added?
I'm not sure if this is the right time for this. Just tell me if you've heard this one. I was thinking about what we did last year with the one-on-ones. I would like to do that again and possibly include a larger group of people and not, I don't wanna create problems or more work for people, but I would like to continue the one-on-ones between us, superintendent and the treasurer. I found that very valuable, but like maybe include some other people to just kind of get a snippet of what they do and what is their job, you know, like how they function in the Cuyahoga Falls City School District machine. And
Can you like make that like a proposal?
I would,
Like write it up?
you want me to write it up or you want me to say it?
No, like write it up.
Yes.
And then make sure Dr. Salco sees that too, to make sure whatever it is she feels comfortable with. Because I'm assuming we're talking about people that report to her,
Yeah.
correct? Just make sure she feels comfortable with whatever we're proposing.
See if it's
And
out
then
of line.
we'll look at it, yeah.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yes.
That's a good path forward. Anything else? At this time? Okay. Committee reports, number 3, core team, Ms. White.
Yes.
God, I know now, it's her then.
Again, it's not the most, you know, I like to see the furniture, I like to see the classrooms and all the color and all that. So it's not a lot of fun, but we are getting there. They are on time. That's the most important thing. They're on schedule. And so that's really good. They talked about the early site development, the 612 building, all the concrete being poured, the stadium retaining wall is going on, the foundations, masonry is getting underway. The steel, it's up, if you've noticed, the steel erection is up, detailing going on, carpentry, drywall, roofing, plumbing, HVAC, electrical, spray, fireproofing. Those are all what they're working on. It's stuff you need, but it's not stuff you're gonna see. So, you know, it's not, but that's what you have to do. The Dominion gas coordination, we're trying to get that installed to complete to the new building. And they're working on the remaining front of the Bullock Middle School. And the Dominion work should be done by April, temporary heat coming up. And the road widening, which we voted on tonight to send that survey, we had to do that, I think, because they wanted the survey done legally or whatever, something like that. And then there's meetings for the interior, for the furniture and things like that, technology updates, staying on top of what we need for the scoreboards and all that stuff. So that's basically what that meeting consisted of.
Thank you, Ms. White. Board policy, I will send out an email to get a meeting scheduled. Business Alliance Council.
Yes, we met yesterday, and we had the pleasure of our House Rep Casey Weinstein came and spoke with everyone, and it was a real. He's such a great speaker, first of all, and very engaging and very down to earth. But he spoke to everyone there on everything from how the redistricting and the drawing of lines and everything affects our local government. And he spoke on school funding and how that has negatively affected us, and some of the positive things that have come out in the past year that have been able to help some districts, not necessarily ours, but some others. And there was a lot of good Q&A too, about, and I think it was Ms. Dodones that brought up, or maybe it wasn't her, about the local government in the schools.
Oh, yeah, no.
It was
Craig.
Craig.
Yeah,
It was
Craig,
Craig.
Craig.
Okay, I'm sorry. I got it mixed up. And he asked a really good question about how he's noticed not just our district, but in curriculums in general. Like, we talk so much and teach the students about the White House and laws and the government on the state level and the federal level, but there's not really a big focus on local politics and how those really are what are affecting us in our day-to-day lives, and how we can maybe incorporate more of that in. And, you know, of course, Casey was very open to coming, and you know, he's like, reach out. A lot of your elected officials will be glad to come in and speak to your students. So I think that's something that's really awesome that would be great to pursue for our students, because it's true, it does affect us way more, and it is something that we need our younger people to be aware of, especially as they go up and out into the world. So, but it was a really good meeting, and Mr. Smith spoke and just gave an update on the career fair that will be happening on the 22nd?
Yes.
Is that correct? Yes. Yes.
Thursday.
So, excited to be a part of that.
Patty with my calendar now.
So.
Mrs. White, you're rubbing off on me on calendar. I can't get any days right. Every day wrong. I don't know. I know I need to be here every night next week. That's all I know. What event I go to, I'm not sure. It'll be a surprise.
And I know it starts pretty early. It goes
4:30, I
4:30.
believe,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'll be there a little bit later than that, but I'm excited.
Mr. Wagowski to go to Mrs. Teeter's class at Richardson because they have flashcards of their local elected officials.
Nice.
And next year, when you're
Yes.
board president, they'll have a flashcard of you.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I'm sure Miss Teeter already has a couple choice pictures of me
Yeah.
from Richardson
So,
that she can use.
yeah, I came in and read to her class one year, and they go, "We have a flashcard of you." And they have a flashcard of you as the superintendent too. So yeah, so she does a great job. So she has some good ideas about local government that maybe we can pull from.
Yeah.
District Wellness Committee, I don't know if you have anything to report. If not, you're next for Financial Advisory Committee as well.
District Wellness meets next Thursday. the
Oh,
22nd.
Wonderful.
I believe.
And I know Financial Advisory Committee did meet, so you're
Yeah,
on
we
that.
met
Yesterday.
It seemed like a week ago. So much going on. It's a small but mighty group. It was 5, 6.
Oh, that's
Five.
a lot.
5 of us.
More than you know.
Uh,
Good turnout.
I asked Ms. Stoykoy to please show the aerial drone video, and I thought that was gonna roll over really well, and they did not really care as much about it as I thought they would. They wanted to hear about the numbers, they wanted to hear about the levy cycle, and like, how, things are calculated, and basically how we get money through the levy. It was good for me. They were talking about millage, effective millage rates and everything, so it's always good for me to hear about that again, because it is complicated. And then when we were talking, it was I had like this aha moment with the levies, when you're voting a levy at the millage, it's that dollar amount. And then when you renew them, the millage changes, but it's never gonna be more than that dollar amount. And I was thinking about, we have one levy that was originally voted in 1991. So the levy money from 1991, they, run a school on 1991 money, which was kind of an eye-opener for me, thinking just how we get money, how we pay for things, and how tax money is collected, and how taxpayers pay towards. It was interesting, and they were very interested in that. And they had a lot of comments about that. So I learned a lot. And they suggest that you put more things in the roar.
They want more numbers?
More numbers,
Less-
more levy, more
coming up.
millage, and
Need to add another page.
It's gonna be a pamphlet.
I know it's hard. I know that the last
Insert.
one that you did was a lot of information in a small space. It was a
Not
lot.
easy
It was
sometimes, yeah.
Probably
Small
property
mighty.
taxes for the next one? Is that
I
your-
just did that one in October.
Oh, yeah.
I'm probably gonna do that, probably ask her, like, follow up, kinda like the
Yeah.
emergency levy.
Our next edition
Unless
will
anyone
come out in
has a
spring break.
suggestion.
Oh, spring break.
Around April, we just talked about it today. April,
End of March.
end of March. That's our goal.
Wonderful.
That's why I'll be writing on the plane.
perfect. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. Foundation Alumni Association, we met last night. We have our scholarship portal closed. We had a great turnout of applicants this year, over 50 fully solid applicants that did all the things that they need to do. So that's wonderful. Also a reminder, If you have not renewed your membership for the year, to renew as well. There's a few people in the room that need to. You are on the list. This is my officially reminding you. We had to sign up to say who we were going to remind, and I put my initials next to certain people who are here. So this is me reminding you. I'll report back that I did.
Am I not the only one?
The
Okay.
teacher grant portal is open right now. As of right now, we've only received 2 full applications for teacher grants. Last year, we gave out 13.
Oh, wow.
So we want to let our educators know money's on the table through the Cuyahoga Falls Schools Foundation Alumni Association, $500 grants. Only our educators can apply for these funds. I know Mr. Smith's going to work with the principals to make sure they're sending out more information, and I know Mrs. Hausman already sent one notice out. But we've got 2 applications right now. Last year we gave out 13. This is only just like the scholarships. Only our people can benefit from this money. That's why I'm so passionate about what the foundation does, because they only help our people. And then lastly, we are working on a new design for the Top Tiger shirt. So actually, the little tiger used to be our logo for the foundation. We've since updated our logo. So we're updating the whole Top Tiger t-shirt, and we're working with the interactive marketing design class, which again is another shout out to Mr. Wargowski. Lots of deserved good shout outs for the great work he does tonight. So we're working with them on that as well. Legislative liaison, Mr. Harris.
Yeah, a couple updates here. The House voted 75-19 to pass House Bill 2. House Bill 2 is the legislation, and Representative Weinstein talked about this at the BAC. Legislation contains some portions of the traditional capital budget, as well as $350 million of the $700 million of the one-time strategic community investments authorized by House Bill 33, or the biennial budget. House Bill 2 was passed by the House, contains $600 million for Ohio Facilities Construction Commission to use for school building improvements efforts across the state. This legislation is heading to the Senate. The House passed Senate Bill 17. Senate Bill 17 would require the state board to update the standards and model curriculum for financial literacy and entrepreneurship in grades 9 through 12 to include free market capitalism content. That's heading back to the Senate for concurrence vote. Out of the House Ways and Means Committee, the committee amended House Bill 344, which would eliminate replacement property tax levies and would make changes to laws regarding property tax valuation complaints, counter complaints, and appeals. The amendment fixes a technical drafting error. The committee also accepted a substitute version of House Bill 263, which would authorize a property tax freeze for certain owner-occupied homes. A couple of the changes in this bill, the substitute version in the bill, age to qualify is reduced from 70 to at least 65 years old. A continual occupancy requirement is reduced from 10 years to 2 years. The total annual income to qualify is reduced from $70,000 to $50,000 or less. And then lastly here, House Bill 402 was introduced. This would authorize property tax reduction in 2023 for properties with increased tax liability relative to 2022. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Student Achievement Liaison, Ms. White.
Yeah, we met today, and mostly, I couldn't stay the whole time, but I think I was close to the end before I had to leave. But what we did was, it was kind of a warm-up, what made your day happy, because it's Valentine's Day. So people gave things of what made them happy today and things like that, so that was kind of nice. We talked about sequence of learning intentions and how lesson planning has to be in a sequence, kind of like, well, what do they need to know, the vocabulary, the background knowledge, that type of thing, and then you can kind of narrow down to maybe an actual text and, more specific there. So that's kind of what we looked at. We kind of talked about those priority or power standards, and the collaborative power of teams, and just to keep in mind that the standard is the low level, and Ms. Hausman is big on this, but we can go up and above that, and we should try to reach higher than that standard. So that was basically, I think, all that we did today in our session. So
Thank you so much.
it's interesting.
Yeah. Item 4 is comments. I'm up first. I stopped by our art fundraiser at the Works over the weekend and also entered to win some baskets, and I won a basket. I won the Cuyahoga Falls basket, and so I won a sticker too. I'm really excited because I forgot to buy one of the stickers that Mr. Harris has on his water bottle. Support the visual arts booster, so I won a sticker, so I'm really happy now that I have one of those. So thank you to the hard work of Mr. Schulman, who I think was there pretty much all day Saturday, and put a lot of effort into planning that to make sure it's really mainly fundraising for the art walk, so great work to her. And I think Dr. Selko didn't mention it, but I believe she stopped by on Sunday to support as well.
We were there playing games. Any,
So, last Friday I popped by Lincoln for their bingo night. They had a huge turnout. Mr. Scotty had to keep pulling out more and more cafeteria tables, and they ran out of bingo beans at one point because they had such a great turnout. But that's a happy problem. And they tied it in this year. It's something that new they did. They tied it in with the book fair and did 45 minutes of book fair shopping with families before the book fair actually opened the next week. So from 5:15 to 6, families could shop with their student at the book fair and or just see what was going to be at the book fair next week. And they got some good purchases out of that, and that was a really good idea. We always love tying literacy into fun. Big fans of that up here, so great idea to our Lincoln PTA. And then lastly, Mrs. Schaefer might mention it too, but she and I attended the OSBA Board of Education 101 training. And, you know, I've been on, this is my 7th year on the board, and Mrs. Schaefer's 3rd year on the board, and we've both been to that training before, and then, but we were both taking so many notes because you learn so much, because so much changes.
Yeah.
And so we learned a lot, and it was a lot of great information. It's always nice to meet new people. And people kept saying, they're like, Cuyahoga Falls, everybody says your district's just got it together. You guys have got it going. You guys have got it going on. And we were like, happy to hear it. Happy to hear it. There's a few Facebook pages you can join. Maybe post that on.
Right.
I could suggest to you, but happy to hear that that's the outside perception of our district. Very positive to hear that from other people. The outside, that's the outside perception of our district from other people involved in this work. So, very exciting. Mr. Harris.
Yeah, just very brief. I too was able to swing by the Works for the Arts fundraiser. Yeah, it was amazing. I'm actually, I put a lot of tickets in those baskets and I still didn't win anything. I'm a little upset, but perfectly fine. We won a couple games with the little one, and then I got my butt kicked in duck pin bowling after that. So it was a good, all around good time. And then lastly, I just want to recognize it is Black History Month. You know, I want to thank Ms. Stewart for sharing what you are on our social media page. This is a time, we should be doing this all year round. This is a time for us to be celebrating the accomplishments and recognizing the accomplishments of Black folks throughout our history, and just, you know, again, recognizing that a lot of the things that we do have in the you know, social, I'd say, even materialistic culture, music, everything is just we want to thank those folks. We really do. So I appreciate you recognizing that, and folks around the district, teachers, for everything they're doing in the classroom too. Thank you.
Thank you for highlighting that for all of us.
Yes,
Mr. Harris.
absolutely.
Mrs. Schaefer.
I don't really have much. We attended the Board 101. Like you said, I did not expect to take away as much as I did from it. I took a lot of notes that I have already referred back to. So, and it's nice to meet people from other districts also, and how they do things, and then can kind of compare how we do things versus how they do things. That's always a bonus for me. Usually our way's better, so that's nice. I did get a chance to stop at the Works fundraiser as well. I didn't go on Saturday. I kind of wish I had now because I missed all of the baskets, and so, but it's still counts as part of the fundraiser, so
Absolutely.
I still feel good about that.
Thank you.
That's all I have, thanks.
Ms. White?
Yeah, a couple of things. I was real happy to see in my notes the Ohio Dental Outreach, the mobile dentist, that they'll be coming to our district to treat little kids with any kind of dental problem, the tooth loss, gum disease, heart disease, whatever. But that's really neat, and I'm glad to see that happening in our district. We know that my orthodontist, dental health is health. He was always, you gotta have good teeth. Okay. So, I'd also like to congratulate Mr. Ken Johnson, KJ, for the honor that he received. This is really something, NEOIAAA, Tim Flannery Horizon Award, which is presented to an active athletic administrator who shows professionalism and involvement in the profession and who makes a difference in his or her school district and or league. So congratulations, Mr. Johnson. We are proud of you and the job that you are doing. So those are just two interesting things throughout the notes. There were many, but
Mrs. White, thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah.
I actually intended,
Sure.
I told him this, and he's so humble. I made a big deal out of it, and he was embarrassed. But
Well,
I did tell him we will recognize him at a board meeting. We were gonna wait till after the event, and he officially gets his
okay,
award.
but
So in
that's
April, we
fine
will.
too. We can do
Yep.
that too.
But thank you for noticing that.
But yes, I did, and so that's always good. I do have an article to read this week. I'll try to make it really short. Okay, but this is the 4 pillars of school mental health. And it made an impression on me. Many pressures, some common, like tough academic expectations or lingering loss in the isolation from the year plus of lockdown, some more individualized, are negatively impacting students' mental health. The CDC's Youth Risk Behavior Survey revealed that 42% of students felt persistently sad or hopeless. 42%. 22% of the youth surveyed indicated they seriously considered attempting suicide, while 10% had attempted that. To me, they're young. Why? I don't understand, but we got to address this. We just do. Well, there are ways to do this, and there is a strategy built on what they call the 4 pillars. 4 aspects of support on which individuals and communities must base their efforts to strengthen mental wellness. These aspects all start with the letter A: aware, active, accepting, and available. Becoming aware, this simply means cultivating awareness, is kind of like turning on a light. If we want to make progress in promoting mental health and eliminating the stigma attached to mental illness, the first step is to turn on the light in a room that's been dark for a very long time. We need to choose to prioritize raising awareness about mental health. We can work together in teams or however to have those pillars of awareness by providing teachers, students, and parents with a wellness framework that integrates mental and emotional well-being as one of the several interconnected components. When students and adults start to see mental health in the context of overall health, just like dental, it helps to eliminate the stigma around mental health challenges. And I believe there is still stigmas. We can get active, second one. If you want to raise awareness in the community, you need to be active. And if you want to engage in mental health promotion, you need to be active. Regularly, we could host wellness meetings for parents. We could explore books like The Emotional Lives of Teenagers by Lisa D'Amour. We could present on various wellness-related topics and offer a platform to openly discuss the students' concerns. We could present on mental and emotional well-being during school assemblies. And these actions signal that this is a priority. And that's what some of the things that we could do, we may be doing, I'm not sure, but it would help all we can to promote. Acceptance. People tend to judge negatively what they don't understand. That judgment leads to avoidance, which reinforces negativity and further blocks understanding. If we want to truly understand anything, we need to accept that there's a lot we don't know, and accept that running away from unpleasantness isn't always the right approach. We need to accept that perhaps we don't fully understand our own internal experiences or somebody else's. Being available, finally. If we could summarize this pillar in one sentence, it would be, you are not alone. Our school wants to ensure that no community member feels they are on their own when facing difficulties. One obstacle to being available to someone struggling with mental health is not knowing what to say or what to do. So, to help get through that, there's a communication strategy developed by Active Minds called VAR, which stands for Validate, Appreciate, and Refer. So that when someone is talking about their struggles, our reflex is often to try to alleviate that person's pain. This often takes the form of telling the person how to fix their solutions. With all the best intentions behind them, words about what you should do might leave the other person feeling unheard, or worse, invalidated. So first, validate their feelings. You can listen to their conscious decision to make space for uncomfortable feelings. You're feeling sad, I get it. Then take time to appreciate the person's courage in being vulnerable. It takes guts to be open with feelings. So then we have to kind of reflect, do they simply need to vent? And a lot of us do. Or do their words and manner indicate it would be better if they spoke with a guidance counselor or a counselor? So where could we refer them to for further help? Building these 4 pillars in a school is a never-ending endeavor. These 4 qualities are like a compass. They provide a sense of direction and purpose that helps people and communities move toward well-being. We've seen how turning on the light of awareness, empowering students to be active, and signaling acceptance and availability helps all our learners. So I just thought that was a really interesting and good article.
Thank you, Ms. White. I appreciate it. Ms. Coco.
Yes, while everyone else was having fun at the Works on Saturday, I was in a sauna at the swim sectionals, but I did get to cheer on our Cuyahoga Falls team, and they have relay teams and a few other qualifiers that'll be at districts this Saturday, so I will be in Cleveland cheering them on there as well. And kind of a piggyback on there, I was excited to read that by next year we will have a diving board for our divers back at the natatorium. I know that was a big concern for our parents, and so I'm glad that and hopeful for our partnership with Parks and Rec. It looks like there's some good things happening there. So I'm excited about that as well. And then just a huge thank you for the presentation, the EL presentation today from everyone, and especially for Mr. Banya to come and sharing his story. I just think it's very impactful that we have someone in this district who knows that journey, and it hasn't just read about what these students are experiencing, but he's been there and he's lived it, and is able to help them in ways that I think are just going to have a huge impact on them. And then just to piggyback off that mental health article, I think being able to share stories of and experiences is really one of the most impactful ways that we can help people know that they're not alone. And so thank you for sharing that article. I know we have a lot of students that struggle with mental health, and we have a lot of students are coming from families whose caregivers are also struggling with mental health. And so any way that we can find as a district to erase that stigma and create a space where people can share would be amazing. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Item J is an executive session pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G1, it is hereby moved the board adjourns to executive session for the purpose of considering the employment and compensation of an employee or official of the school district. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer? Ms. White?
Aye.
Thank you. We'll be in executive session at 7:44.
Awesome.